Welcome to Next Level eCommerce, the webinar series where top e-commerce experts share their advanced tips and tricks.
Yes, welcome everyone. Yeah, probably as I've already seen in the chat, everyone in Europe is trying to survive the heat, especially we Dutchies because we're not used to it. So we can complain all over, but I would say it's nice that it is sunny and we can live the summer life. So that's pretty good. And hopefully you're in the AC at least ready for today's topic because we have Andrew back in the building because we had him last time as well. So we thought, hey, if this is this good, we have to get him again. And there he is with a really interesting topic, which I will introduce to you in a bit. But we also have something other nice going up because we are every step upgrading the PPC kind of hub that we have. So it's not the same, of course, as PPC Mastery, but our own kind of hub where we try to store as many of the content that we're creating in the same themes. So that's great. So even if you feel like, hey, interesting, I would like to see the previous webinar that we did with Andrew about shopping feeds, and a lot of it is still very relevant, then you can actually check it out there and also see all the other sessions we did, for example, with Mike Rhodes, Niels Roymans, and a lot of other PPC specialists out there. So that's great. And of course, let us also know on where you're struggling or where you want to know more information about. Because in the end, we're always building this based on what you would like to know. And if you have great input, and we're already getting great input, we can also make sure we make it as relevant as possible. And of course, it's we try to make it possible to get everyone here, and therefore we also have the connections, such as with Andrew as well. So that's super nice. But we're not only solely talking about the things we actually do, because in the end we want to show you where you can make impact in those channels. And therefore don't be limited to whatever we do. But this topic is especially something we do as well, which is nice. So if you need any help on that part, we are always able to help out. So shoot us a message. And then let's get into the topic itself. But before we do have some house rules. So we have Andrew in, and he prepared quite some nice stuff for you, which means he also took quite some time to be here and to be willing to share this with you all. So make sure you're here. Ideally, close off your Slack, Google Chat, or any other channel that you use or your email, and try to really be here. Would only be for half an hour-ish to have your time here, which will also always be more valuable to you. If we run out of time, we always go a bit over to make sure we actually provide value and we don't rush through things. And most importantly, and please help me remind the rest as well, is that we have a questions tab. So if you have a question, please ask it in a questions tab, because there everyone can upvote the questions. And based on that, I will actually make sure that those questions are being asked to Andrew first. So the more votes, the first you will get your answers. And if your question is in the chat, then we're unfortunately not able to answer it. And besides that, all the answers on the questions you will actually be able to find on Reddit, not directly after, but a few days after, to actually make sure that we have everything ready. And then we go to our speaker, which is Andrew Lolk, PPC expert since 2009 and also very much known to us. He's actually been working with us for a long time and vice versa. So therefore, we have always been in touch with each other. He's also named as one of the PPC experts, and actually since every year from 2019 to 2026. Meaning that he knows a lot about this stuff. So therefore, we are also super happy to have him here and to explain you on how you could get the impact. Lastly, he of course owns SavvyRevenue, founded there, one of the leading agencies based in Denmark, knows a lot about paid search as well. So welcome, Andrew. How warm is it over there?
It is a pleasant 22 degrees.
Ah, that's good. That's nice.
Southern California have no issues. We have perfect spring weather. 11 out of 12 months of the year, just broken up by 1 month where it gets a little bit hot. But we're in the US, so we have AC. There's no issues over here at all.
Nice. That's good to hear. All right, then yeah, let's get over to you. And of course, we're getting into CSS and why it actually matters. From our angle, we of course offer something for it. But I would always say it's a no-brainer, and yeah, we're really happy to have you here to actually explain and show the proof of it as well. And yeah, we are really curious on what you have to tell us.
Awesome. I can click here. Awesome. So today we're talking about Google Shopping CSS and specifically what it looks like in today's day and age, because one of the things that, and the whole reason why this topic came up and why I started talking about it again is because I started seeing that a couple of agencies start saying that CSS doesn't matter anymore. You don't have to use it. It's irrelevant. You don't get any benefits. You might as well not do it. And it started with me not really believing it. We had a lead in Savvy that was like, they came and said, well, our agency said we didn't need it anymore. And this was an agency that owned their own CSS. So I was like, that can't be. Like some junior somewhere said something wrong. And then the second lead came in a month later and said the same thing from a different agency. And a couple of months later, a third advertiser that we spoke to said the same thing. And then I was like, okay, we're going to have to talk about it. And it was one of my most viral posts on LinkedIn in the last year. So when Jules reached out to say, okay, can we talk about CSS? I was like, yes, we can, definitely. Because the misunderstanding is that there is still a 20% advantage. Whether or not you call that discount or a bidding advantage or whatever you want to call it, how you look at it, I'll explain the different nuances of it. It's still there. The mechanism has never gone away. The thing that just got a lot harder is trying to prove that it exists. Because back in the day, I've been in this game so long that I remember when Channable was tiny and I had fights over our missed payments with the founder in Channable. Now I can't get a hold of the founder, even if I try to really, really hard. There's 15 layers. That's how old I am in this game. And that also means that I got the first days of CSS when it first came out, when there was a kickback, when there were different things that were in there, and where we used to run manual bidding. CSS is that old that we still ran manual bidding. Back when we ran manual bidding, we could see we ran one campaign for CSS and one campaign for Google. So we had two campaigns running, and we could directly see what the CPC difference was. So I have it ingrained in me what the purpose is and how it works. So today I'm going to show you the same thing, because the problem is that nobody can see what the performance differences are today. Performance for a regular campaign and the performance from a CSS campaign, you can't quite see the difference. So, but before we get started, let's just start with a quick poll. Do you want to launch a poll, Jules? So this is about if you're not already running CSS, then I'm curious to see what the reasons is. And do you want to take it from here, Jules?
Yes, I can. So the first results are coming in. Luckily, I see a lot of people are on I am running it. So that's a good thing. But and it's actually a bit spread across, I would say, the different reasons. But the biggest one with 15% is that they didn't think it still mattered, which we kind of expected as well. And we have some others. So if you voted other, please share it in the chat as well so that we can pick it up. And right from there, Andrew can actually think with you on why that is. But to summarize, so 60% I'm running it, 15% didn't think it still mattered, 10% too complicated to switch, and the rest is kind of other reasons.
Interesting. Okay, let's keep going. So the 5 things we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the mechanism. We're going to talk about why you can't see the savings anywhere. We're going to talk about what smart bidding does after you change to CSS. I'm going to have a little rant on affiliates because that's something that sounds better than sliced bread, but it's really, really dangerous to use. And then the top thing that was in there, one of the top things in terms of why people aren't running CSS already, I'll tell you what the simplest way to switch to CSS is without losing any campaign history, changing anything really. It's just a click of a button. So let's start with the mechanism. So CSS isn't a trick. It's just EU regulation. And like we all know about EU regulation, then it takes forever to change. So these like 4, 5, 6 years ago when CSS came out, then Google simply said, Google was told you have to turn shopping into its own entity, means its own company, which means it needs to make its own money, which means that Google have to siphon off some part of every single time somebody clicks on an ad in Google Shopping, needs to send to the shopping entity. At the same time, EU regulation told Google you have to let other comparison shopping services or comparison shopping sites, you have to let them into the Google shopping auction. They did that. And what then happened was all the CSSs, the comparison shopping sites, they don't take the 20%. They don't take 20% off the top. So you have a bidding advantage as you go into Google Shopping when you bid with the CSS than with shopping, because they don't charge that extra 20%. And that's something that's been there from day one. The question is exactly how much is it? 20%, 18%, 22%? The 20% came from the original documentation that Google released. But the effect that you see on a daily basis is very different. I'll jump into the auction dynamics a little bit later. But this is the same thing as we've seen the entire time. And it's not a trick. It is simply just EU regulation that this has to happen. So that's why it keeps on going. So the one thing I just wanted to mention, this is an EU thing. It's not the entire world, and it's not even all of Europe. There's a couple of markets outside of the EU, like the UK now after Brexit, that's still relevant for CSS, but if it's not an EU country, then it's typically not a thing. There's a couple of countries where this still applies for simplicity, but for instance, it doesn't work in the US and Canada, and Mexico is like, it's simply irrelevant over here. The difference, and this is the one slide that I like to just put into everybody, there's like, this is how simple it is. You usually run a merchant center with Google. You get into the Google shopping auction through the Google CSS, because technically Google is a CSS. When you switch to a CSS like Channable, your existing merchant center just turns into a Channable CSS. It's not different branding. It's not a different platform. It's nothing. It's a small change inside of the settings that simply just says Channable instead of Google for the CSS. And then you go into the same Google shopping auctions on the exact same premises, just via the Channable CSS with the quote unquote 20% discount. It's that simple. And the way it looks, I like to call the 20% discount, I like to call it a 20% auction pressure or auction advantage. And the reason why I like to opt for auction advantage or auction pressure is because we rarely see the savings. I'll go into more detail with why we don't see the savings, but what we see a lot of the time is just we get to push further into the auctions. We're not being dragged behind. So if you're normally bidding an 80-cent bid through the Google with a Google Merchant Center, as you move over to a Channable CSS, you basically go up to a 90-cent bid instead of an 80-cent bid. That's the effect you see. And technically it's the other way around because you get the savings, but the way smart bidding understands this is by pushing harder. And again, it's an auction advantage. It's not really a refund. We can't see it in the account. There's nowhere in the line item. There's nowhere in the invoice where you go, okay, we paid 100K. Here's the discount. Here's the coupon code. None of that happens. And because we're all running smart bidding today, and most of us, I haven't seen somebody do this, but most of us don't change the smart bidding target after you go live. So smart bidding just starts eating up more and more of that quote unquote savings that you get, which for me is a good thing because it means you can compete in more auctions, you can get more reach, and you get further out. The one thing that turns this into why nobody agrees on whether or not CSS is relevant any longer is because we're 4 different buckets of this being, of this not working, or of different competitive things. If down the right corner, if nobody uses CSS, we're all the same. Nobody has an advantage, nobody's disadvantaged. Then what is happening in the left bottom corner is that you're not using CSS, but most of your competitors are. then you don't really gain an advantage by going to CSS, but you are behind constantly because all your competitors are running a CSS, which has that 20% extra pressure. So for you just to get to par with your competitors, you need to be bidding 20% higher. And that's the thing that most people don't understand with CSS, because you will look in your account and say, well, nothing really happens when I do this. What's the real effect? I can't read it in my account. It's like putting oil in your car. As long as you put oil in your car routinely and you change it and you do it, you're not going to go and say, well, my car's driving better now. But you damn well need to put in oil in order for your car to drive. And that's the same way that I see CSS today, because it's very rare there is an auction today where most advertisers are not using some sort of CSS. So if you're not running CSS today, you are behind. And by getting CSS, you're basically just competing on equal footing. Now, there's a couple of auctions, there's a couple of markets in Europe, there's a couple of places where most people are holding back from using CSS, which to the life of me, I don't understand. I think it's because some agencies go around saying that it's not relevant anymore. In those cases, in those markets, in those auctions, you can't get ahead. But most of the time, you need to look at CSS as going, I need to compete at an equal footing. In order to figure out whether or not your auctions and your market is primarily run in CSS or not in CSS, you can simply just look at it, that little note down in the corner, down below a product ad. You can see if it says from Google, then it's an advertiser using the Google Merchant Center. Otherwise, if it says anything else than that, from Channable or any of the others, that's where you can see if they're running a CSS. So in this case, you can basically see that 3 out of 7 are running Google, which to the life of me, I don't understand why they do that. It's simple, it's a click of a button. So I would say you just have to do it. But this is the way for you to figure out whether or not you're in the first bucket with, are you behind or can you get ahead? It's simply just look in some of your main keywords and see what your competitors are doing and see whether or not they're running CSS or not. And you can figure out whether or not you're behind or you can get an advantage from running CSS. So this is what I mean. I think that the early movers, early adopters for all this, it's already coming on. There's nowhere where there's very few auctions today where there aren't already a lot of CSS advertisers. So it's even gone past that it's table stakes that most people should do it. I'm saying it's mandatory to run CSS today. Skipping it means you're falling behind, and it's dumb. So the reason why I can't see the savings, again, it's not a cost, it's not a line item, it's not something you can see, it's not a coupon code, it's not a discount. But the most important thing here is actually that smart bidding absorbs it. Because as smart bidding, like I said before, not a single advertiser goes in and says, oh, I'm running 1,000% ROAS now. Now change to CSS, I'm going to change to 1,200% ROAS. A, that's also the wrong thing to do. But B, nobody needs that. You don't need a 1,200% ROAS if you're already hitting 1,000% ROAS. You want to be at 1,000% ROAS, just at a better, just get more out of it. So that's what happens with smart bidding, is that you turn over to Channable CSS, you temporarily get a higher ROAS than before. Smart bidding reacts to that and start raising its bids or get into more auctions. And you're basically getting just into more auctions, you're getting more reach captured at the same target ROAS as you had before. So that's what happens every single time that somebody turns on the CSS. You get this temporary boost, and then you just go back to everything being business as usual after that. But if you don't have it, again, that's where you're 20% behind in every single auction against competitors. So yeah, more volume, existing target. And then there's some complexity that adds to this in terms of trying to figure out how this really works. And I'm gonna make this sound really complicated. So please just stay with me, because it's on purpose that this is supposed to be complicated. There's two things to consider here when you're trying to read what the effect of adding CSS in your account is. Number one is, how far away is your bids from your competitors? because this is also just math. If you're bidding, let's just say $5 today, and your nearest competitor above you is bidding $8, then a 20% increase makes your bid turns from a $5 to a $6. Nothing changes because your nearest competitor is at $8. So you're not taking over that spot. You're not getting more exposure, and you're not getting more clicks. You're not getting any savings whatsoever. If your bids are very close together, so you're bidding $2 and your competitor is bidding 2.1, then you're going to go just above him or them in terms of getting more exposure. If the advertiser below is 1.9 and you're at 2.1, you go up to 2.3 because you get a 20% boost. Nothing happens because you're paying what the advertiser below you is bidding. There's a bunch of complexity. What does that look like when someone has a 20% discount and others haven't? Don't worry about it. It's just the concept you need to understand, that you're paying what the other person is bidding. So imagine this at scale. Imagine this amongst your 10-ish competitors. Imagine this across all your products. Imagine this across all the auctions, meaning search terms you can enter. And there's different competitiveness, there's different bidding layers on all that. That's why if you get a 20% boost on your bids, you can't really see a 20% anywhere, because some places it is like that. You get a 20% boost. Other places it's 11%, other places it's 4%, other places 16%. So what I'm trying to say with all this is don't try to read the data. Don't try to figure it out, because with smart bidding today, we can't read it. It's impossible. The way we used to read it was we did this. And for all of you who remember us running manual bidding, this is how we used to do it. We used to have a campaign for mobile and tablet, and then a campaign for desktop, and then a campaign. In this case, it's high converting keywords and generic keywords. This is old school. We don't do this anymore. But it also meant that we could actually run a system where we, based on the data across the two campaigns, so mobile and tablet, CSS, mobile and tablet, Google, we could run the exact same manual bids and see what happened. So in this case, you can see the top campaign goes from 243 to 231 CPCs. Same bids, all these. In the next one, we actually have a higher CPC. Volume in these are very low. I wish I could have taken that screenshot with me back in the day and brought cost into it, but volume was really low. That's why there's an issue there. But if we go down to generics, again, there's more or less a perfect 20% discount on the CPCs. If we go down to generics, there's more or less the same CPC. So that is what I'm trying to explain here. There's a really big difference in every single auction and the dynamics of every single auction. So even back in the day when we used to be able to read this perfectly, there was a difference in terms of how much of a quote unquote discount we would get out of doing it. That doesn't mean that there's no effect from doing it. That doesn't mean it doesn't make sense to do. It just means that it's very hard to read. Last year, we accidentally had to do this again. It's not like we run these CSS tests a lot, but last year we had a case where we had a client that came in during the summer peak, and their old merchant center, we couldn't get access to it. The old agency didn't have access. The client didn't have access. Nobody could find who had the administrative access to it. So we couldn't make changes. We couldn't change to a CSS. So we had a choice to make. Do we want to turn into running this in terms of just continue just running with Google, or do we want to start a new merchant center? We decided to start a new merchant center from scratch with Channable CSS and say, okay, we'll just start it up. And then for the first time in a couple of years, we actually ran the Google Merchant Center at the same time as the CSS Merchant Center, because we needed some transition. We needed some time to start adding more products, adding more data to the products in the new Merchant Center. And this is not a perfect A/B test, but it indicates a little bit that that discount that we're talking about, that extra auction pressure is there, because we're seeing more clicks, better CPCs, slightly higher cost, significantly higher volume from the CSS campaign than the business as usual, the Google campaign. So it still works. Every single time we we test this a little bit, we see these same numbers. So that's why for me, it's just becomes table stakes. This is just a thing you just have to check off. You just have to put oil in your car. You just have to run your campaigns on a CSS. One of the big pitches that came out of changing to a CSS partner is affiliates. All of a sudden, we could now do double serving in Google product ads. That was interesting. So all of a sudden, a commission-only affiliate scheme came up. So affiliates could be bidding through Google Shopping. In the early days, the first year, it was pure double serving. We could show the same product from the same advertiser in the same product carousel right next to each other. That meant we could get more space. And that meant it was pretty cool to run both Google and a CSS at the same time. That got wiped away within the first year, maybe the second year, completely wiped out. What affiliates go out and say today, oh, sorry, we have a poll. So let's just start with the poll, then I'll go back to my story. So yeah, Jules, you want to take it from here?
Yes, definitely. So first results are coming in slowly. Most of it is actually on run my own CSS or neither. Should be any, right? So last poll, we actually had many people saying they already run it. So can't be that it's now neither, because then there's a bit of a gap in the results, I would say. But most of it currently say I run my own CSS with 36%, neither is 30%, and I use a CSS affiliate is 23%, and both is 10%. So it's quite mixed, I would say, the result. Was that what you expected before?
Yeah, yeah, more or less. It's what I hear out there as well. So 25% say they use a CSS affiliate. You're gonna listen to me now. This is gonna be interesting. So the thing that I look at with the CSS affiliates. Actually, let me take the next slide. What affiliates go out and say is that pay me by commission. It's like your Google Shopping. We're going to tap into saying, we're going to tap into whatever you're not hitting, whatever auctions your smart bidding is missing out on, we're going to grab onto. So we're going to be a safety net, and you're only going to pay us per commission. So it's like running Google Ads, but just on commission. So far, so good. The second part that they're saying is that we can run more sophisticated Google setups. We are better at Google Ads than you. So therefore, we can get more out of Google Ads than you can. And all of it is all of it is a little bit harsh. 90% is just a scam. Oh, scam is a big word. Forget I said that. 90% is not accurate. The problem that happens is that Google CSS affiliates have access to the exact same thing as you do. They run Google Ads through a Google Ad account just like you do. They use smart bidding just like you do. Where affiliate CSS comes in handy is when you don't trust the agency that's running your Google Ads. When you don't trust yourself to run Google Ads. In Savvy, we have it in our contract that our clients are not allowed to run CSS. Not that they can't do whatever the heck they want, because they can. I don't hold them back or anything. But I always say, if we want to run an affiliate CSS, if we want to have the benefit of a safety net, if we want to have the benefit of adding, of doing more, then I want complete control of it. Because the problem that happens with an affiliate CSS is that if you give them a 20% commission, which is basically the same thing as a 500% ROAS, they're going to be bidding 600% ROAS. That margin, that's their profit. That's what they try to go for. And there's no magic. There's no magic to it. They can't get more access to more search terms than you can. So what happens is that they're going to start cannibalizing your campaigns. And in some cases, that's a good thing because they can get a better ROAS than you. That's the 10%. 90% of the cases, they just tap into the auctions that you're already getting a 500, 600, 700, 800, 900% ROAS on. And they're just bidding a slightly higher than you to get into those auctions. So the auctions that you used to get 700, 800, 900, or 1,000% ROAS on, you're now paying a 520% commission. You're getting 500% ROAS on them. So they're basically just cannibalizing your existing auctions that you're already supposed to be in. And the problem that happens with all this is that you lose control of your account. If your metrics, if you're all of a sudden seeing like your account spending less and less and less, is that because you're falling behind the market? Is that because your competitors are doing more? Is it because your pricing is wrong? What is the reason why? And if you can't know whether or not your affiliates are now just bidding higher and taking more demand away from you, you can't know. So your account can go like this. It's impossible to do the year-over-year analysis. It's impossible to understand what happens with your account. It's important to analyze the effect of if you change your own ROAS target from 500 to 600 or from 500 to 400, because you have another entity in there. You have another person bidding for the exact same things as you are. So it becomes incredibly difficult to work with. Now for the switching, just towards the end here, and then we'll get to all your questions. Switching is super simple. You keep your data, you keep your history, you keep your campaigns. Nothing is rebuilt from scratch. You don't have to maintain 2 different merchant centers. You don't have to maintain 2 different accounts. You don't have to maintain 2 different campaign setups. You just convert your existing merchant center, and that's it. So just choose Channable CSS. You set it up through the Channable interface. I'm not going to go, I on purpose didn't choose any slides there because what if this changes in the future or anything like that? But just buy the Channable CSS, convert your merchant center within 24 hours-ish, 7 days. It gets changed over. You take a look, make sure that it says Channable out in the listings, and you monitor performance. That's it. The only caveat here is free listings. You still need a Google Merchant Center as your main hub. That's also where you can control what affiliates or other merchant centers are allowed to be bidding for your keyword, for your products and stuff like that. It takes 2 seconds to just set up a second one. You don't need to maintain a product feed in there. So you can just run it in through that. But I wanted to just close off with saying, for me, CSS is table stakes. You have to it's mandatory. You just have to do it. Once you've done it, go back to actual work. Go back to feed quality, go back to account structure, go back to bidding strategy, go back to all those things that actually optimize your account, because CSS is just a check mark. It has to be done, but it is literally just a check mark that you do, and then go back to actual work from there. So yeah, that was it from me. So I'm ready for questions, Jules.
Nice. That's great to hear because we have some questions in. Yeah, thanks first of all, Andrew, for the clear explanation on why it actually matters and what you actually lose out on if you don't do it. Because I do see it the same way, but I hear the same objections coming up over and over again. So it's really nice from you to hear on how you look at it and how you attack that basically. Before we get into questions, we actually have something nice as well. Because Andrew just said, don't hand that 20% advantage to your competitors. But then the question always is, where am I actually based in between on all my competitors? So what are they bidding and where am I at on all the key metrics? Such as, for example, your ROAS, CPC, CTR. And we are great work from some teams internally that made this actually happen, where we anonymized a lot of data from a lot of clients basically on Google Ads. And now you can compare yourself against your category within the different countries to actually see on where you're at. And this directly could lead into you seeing if you don't have any CSS, that can actually make the difference. So yeah, it's a great one. It's free, ungated, so you don't have to leave any details. We're not going to chase you. If you do so, it's no clickbait. Just have a look and see on how it works, because it can only help you benefit. And this is actually how it looks like. But the best thing to do usually is just check it out and see how it works. And of course, let us know what you feel about it and if it helps you make better decisions, because that's in the end what we want and also why we're sitting here. All right, cool. Then it's time for questions. And that's great. And maybe before we get into the questions, like you always hope with a webinar that everything around you will just stay quiet and will be good. And I was still kind of hoping that my dog did as well, because he was very, very sweet the whole day, but apparently was not. So my apologies for that. But moving forward, let's start with the questions. We actually have here one from Bianca, and I just saw she's in Freiburg, so hopefully you're surviving in the 38 degrees heat out there. But at least you are probably, and maybe you're in AC because you did write a nice question out here, so thanks for that. So she asked the following: what do you think about branded agency CSS? And the main thing she actually wonders that it is cool to see your own brand listed as a publisher, but yeah, she can't really imagine that it would lead to significantly more positive growth or greater brand awareness. Yeah, she's actually curious on how you think about that, Andrew.
So one of the things that I do is that I say outrageous things. I think agency branded CSS is incredibly dumb. Like, so you as an advertiser are basically paying an agency to put their brand out there in front of everybody. Like, the whole advantage with CSS is to have something simple in the name, something that's going to pop up a bunch. So you want to choose like something that everybody's using. So you want something like Channable. I'm not spitballing Channable's name here. I'm just saying use something that's not going to look weird in the auction. So when Channable pops up multiple times, because you guys have so many advertisers, you're going to have so many customers in that network. It's going to be common for people, for consumers to see it. Just, it's going to be normal for them to see, just like it's normal to see Google. Just choose that. Choose what's with the name of something that's simple. I hate agencies using their own name. I think it's self-serving, and I think that it's basically you're advertising for the agency the entire time, and I think it's a little bit weird. That's my personal opinion on it. So I think that, yeah, I think you should just skip it. It's choose something that would be common out there, and there's some silly names from the agency side.
Nice, thanks a lot. And then we have quite some questions coming in, so people don't forget to upvote as well. So if there are any questions in there where you feel like, hey, this one is more important than the other, also helps me prioritize, because now I have to, oh, there we already go. So now it's changing again, which is good. So we have a question here from Lars, and he's asking, is there any benefit in having multiple CSS partners?
I think that no, there's not. There's a second question from James, where I'm just going to combine these two. Does affiliate CSS work better at enterprise level, or when there's a huge product feed, like hundreds of thousands or millions of products? And that's where I start going, okay, that's the 10%. So affiliate CSS has the advantage. So the disadvantage today when you run your own setup today with smart bidding is that it tries to be as effective as possible. It has a really tough time doing that over hundreds of thousands, millions of products at the same time. So you have to basically at all times try to push it a little bit harder for certain parts of the inventory to make sure that you get exposure across everything. That can, when you have millions of products, that can get really expensive. And that's where having an affiliate that's paid on commission can help you. So the more products you have, and in my opinion, it needs to be in the hundreds of thousands or millions of products. That's where you can start, where we have seen that there is an effect, and it is positive. And in that case, the benefit of having multiple CSS partners at that level, if you're running affiliate, there is something there. And then the decision can be for yourself, because one thing is running affiliate CSS. Lars is not saying affiliate. He's just saying multiple CSS partners, multiple CSSs. In my opinion, no. Every single time you do it, you split your data up. And it's my opinion today that consolidating data is it's the biggest advantage you have in Google Ads. You need to see, okay, how do I make smart bidding better? And the best way to make smart bidding better is giving it as much data as possible. So when you run shopping campaigns, your next best thing is to create some kind of complicated, more complex, sophisticated structure, bestsellers or seasonality or on sale, anything like that. And from when you do that, you're already splitting your data out. By taking that one step further and then say, okay, now I run a second CSS, or a third CSS, or a fourth CSS, every single time I've seen that run, I've seen the complexity increase exponentially. And almost without exception, running multiple CSSs means that one of your CSSs will start taking over from the other. So you're in a constantly losing battle trying to figure out, is this why is this account decreasing, this account increasing? Every single time you're trying to read what is this product data doing, you have to always go, oh, I also need to check before I see this winter coat decreasing in spend in November. Well, what is it doing over on this CSS account? What is it doing in this CSS account? What is it doing in this CSS account? You have to constantly try to triangulate, well, is this a trend thing or is it just because one of the accounts took over? So that's the thing to be really, really careful with running multiple CSSs. And if we do it in Savvy, which we have done a couple of times, then we purely run the CSS on some extreme limitations from a bidding perspective, so that we always know what it's doing. It's always that safety net. It's always that extra, and it never starts competing in our core auctions because then it's that's the difficult thing to do. So if you want to run multiple affiliates CSSs or your own CSS partners, I always say really limit it. Don't give them the same advantage as you do. Don't let them run at the same ROAS as you do and all these things. But that's a more complicated strategy.
All right. So actually, on both questions, it matter or it differs, right, per like the situation that you have. But usually, you wouldn't advise anyone to do multiple CSSs. Only if you have a lot of products. So we're talking about hundreds of thousands to a million, where you might add a affiliate CSS to take a part of the catalog to run ads on. Yeah,
and I would go as far as saying you should never do it. People are more likely to mess it up than to get the benefits. I've done this for 15 years. I've done manual bidding. I've done it all. I can think through the complexities. I will say right now, most advertisers I talk to have trouble enough managing the complexity within your own account. Adding more, it just creates gaps in what you can see, and it makes it incredibly difficult for you to make the right decisions. So for that reason, it handicaps everything else you're doing unless you control it extremely well. 95% of the time, you shouldn't do it unless you are the wonder kid with a complex strategy. Then be my guest.
Makes sense. We do have time for 2 more questions. So we have one from Noel, if I pronounce his name correctly. Does it matter what CSS I'm using, or is it just a case of don't use Google CSS?
From the auction mechanics, no. Every CSS have access to the same 20% discount. It all works in the same way. What I always say matter is, one, you want to pay for it. If you're not paying for it, you're the customer. You don't want to be playing that book. So absolutely pay for it. Don't choose a free one, and don't skedaddle on whether or not it's 39 euros, 29 euros, 19 euros. It doesn't matter. So just choose somebody who's reliable and makes it as easy for you as possible. Channable has a good interface. If you're already in there, I can't see why you wouldn't use Channable. But from that perspective, from the auction dynamics, I think that it is simple. Like it's the same for everybody. The one part that I always say to keep an eye out on, does the name sound scammy? There are some names out there where it's like, and with all respect, it's some guy in their basement who set up something and it sounds like a scam. So I would just say the name that you put under every single shopping ad that you think that you put out on the interwebs, I would think that through. And I would say, okay, all this data, all the product information, all that stuff you're feeding over to somebody, do you trust them? And for me, running an agency, it's such an easy decision to make. I've already sent all my stuff into Channable. Like, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it. So I would say, choose somebody that you think is reliable, somebody you already have a working relationship with, and then I would say skip the small players, skip the ones with the scammy sounding site, in my opinion.
Yeah, makes sense. And that's maybe good to note as well, that we sometimes get bad reviews as well because certain products weren't delivered. So if you have a scammy name, then probably they would think your products will not be delivered. So that's good to think about. All right, last question from Bianca. We already had another question from her. And I think you actually touched on this already during the presentation as well, or partly. She says that she can't see her CSS affiliate in the auction data in Google Ads. Doesn't that mean we're cannibalizing each other?
No. So the way to look in your auction insights to see your CSS affiliates is that your name is going to be popping up in there. So the same domain, you're both advertising for the same domain. So if it's, let's just say it's channable.com or SavvyRevenue.com, and that's your e-commerce website, then in the auction insights for yourself, for your own account, it's going to list it as SavvyRevenue.com parentheses you. But your CSS affiliate is going to pop up as SavvyRevenue.com as well. It's going to be the exact same name because it's this exact same domain that you're advertising for. So you can't see it in, so that's the way to see it. Just go into auction insights and then do a filter on your own domain name, and then you can see how often they're there, and over time, how much do they fill, do they increase, do they decrease. That's the way to to just keep an eye out on for CSS affiliates.
Nice, and I think thumbs up means it's the answer we were hoping for, so that's good. Thanks again, Andrew, for the time you have put into this to prepare it, and also the clear presentation. This is great because it really shows on why it still matters, and it actually proves it as well. So hopefully everyone thought the same thing. We usually also launch a poll to just see a bit on how you felt. Was it perfect, too basic, too advanced? Please let us know these things as well, so that we also know on how to prepare these sessions as good as possible and to make it as useful as it can be for you. Thanks again, Andrew. We will see everyone here in the audience hopefully next time with a new topic. And if you're interested in more advanced strategies, don't forget to check out the website on Next Level eCommerce. So Channable and then Next Level eCommerce to actually see all the other sessions. And I would definitely recommend, if you didn't do so, to watch the previous one of Andrew, because I still recommend it to a lot of our customers to check it out, because there are super good tips in there on how to optimize your feed if you already have the CSS. All right, then thanks a lot. Good luck with everyone surviving the heat, and enjoy it as much as you can as well, because before you know it starts raining again. And then we'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for joining Next Level eCommerce. If you want to see more, check out our YouTube or give us a follow on LinkedIn to get more e-commerce tips and tricks. See you at the next one.